All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started as people are trickling in here. Welcome to our June New and Now webinar. We'll be talking about all of the awesome updates that came out in the last month and how you can use them right away to get some more value for your business. I'll give you a heads up. I do have a little bit of a cold, so I apologize if my voice sounds a little odd today, or if I need to take a second to take a sip of water or something, but we will get through it. Got a lot of exciting things today. If you're joining us for the first time, this is part of our New and Now series. It is the first Wednesday of every month. And what we'll be doing is we'll be talking about all the updates that came out in the month prior, and more importantly, use cases that you can do to use those updates and really put them to use right away to start getting value for your business. So what we've got today, we're going to talk about some exciting new features and their use cases. We've got things for sales coaching and sales related reporting. We've got lots of updates for faster marketing content creation that I think a lot of marketers are going to be excited about. And we also got some great updates for admins. If you're doing anything around workflows and properties, if that's your responsibility, I think you're going to love some of those updates. And we've also got some small but mighty updates, things we won't be talking about use cases for, but we think they're important for you to know. So those are going to be some updates to Playbooks, how you manage your duplicates in HubSpot, and also a cool little new tool that they have for managing spam form submissions that I think has been much awaited from HubSpot. Then we'll wrap it up with a Q&A. We're going to save all the questions and answers for the end of the webinar, just because some of those questions get a little more detailed, and I want to make sure we've got time to get through everything today. So if you do have a question, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A section of the webinar in Zoom. All right, before we get started, I'm going to talk just a little bit about Simple Strat and what we do in case you're not familiar with us. So our goal is to help simplify growth for you with HubSpot and the expertise to use it to its full potential. So we do that in a variety of ways for companies. First thing we do is we help you buy HubSpot. So most of the people on the call are probably already using HubSpot, but if you're looking for an upgrade, want to know, should I upgrade? Am I getting the best price for this upgrade? What upgrade do I need? We do offer free purchase assistance to help you out with that. We also help out with onboarding and implementation. So if you are adding a hub or upgrading a hub and want to make sure you're using it correctly, we can help you get set up there. We help people fix HubSpot. So we get a lot of people that come to us saying, hey, the person that's ran my HubSpot left the company, or I know my data's a mess and I just need somebody to kind of get in there and figure out what's going on. We got packages where we get in there and audit things and make sure you get things cleaned up and set up to really hit the ground running going forward with your HubSpot. Help you learn HubSpot. So we offer training. We've got our free HubSpot Hacks YouTube channel. If you haven't checked that out, definitely recommend you check that out for free tutorial videos. And we help you put HubSpot to work. So HubSpot management packages, marketing support packages, building websites, and any project work. So help companies in all of these ways. If anything that sounds interesting to you, definitely hit us up, simplestrat.com/consults. There's a free consultation link there that you can book a meeting directly with me and talk about how we might be able to help you. Without further ado, we're going to jump into our exciting new features and use cases. So our first one here is coaching playlists. Before I talk about coaching playlists, if this is the first webinar that you've been to of our New and Now series, just going to run you through the format of these slides because there's a lot of information here. I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see the new update and who it's available to, who it's available for. So the first thing is going to be whether it's live or public beta. If it's live, it should already be in your portal. I'll tell you kind of how to use it, and you'll be able to go there today and see it. If it's a public beta, you do have to enroll in that public data. Just go to your account in the top right-hand corner, go to product updates, and then enroll in betas from there. Right beneath that is going to be what hubs it's available for. So there's 5 hubs across HubSpot: CMS Hub, Ops Hub, Marketing Hub, Sales Hub, and Service Hub. Some of these features are only available for specific hubs. And then the last one is going to be the tiers that it's available on. So it's available in free, starter, professional, enterprise, or all of the above. So that's what you're going to be looking at on these slides here. So coaching playlists, they're a new update from HubSpot. HubSpot for a long time has had the ability to record calls between your salespeople and your prospects. So this can be whether you're using the HubSpot calling tool, the Zoom integration, or any integration with any other calling tools. HubSpot automatically records those calls for you. And the new update with coaching playlists is you can now organize those call recordings into playlists. You can save a full call or just a clip, add whatever notes you would like, and then you can share those out with your team members. So a couple good use cases for this. The first one, and probably the most helpful one, is onboarding new salespeople. So we all know we've got lots of training and things that we take our new salespeople through. This can be a really, really cool tool to help you do that better and maybe a little bit more efficiently for your time. So what you would do then is create a playlist for various elements that you want to train those new salespeople on. This could be things like how you qualify your leads, how you discuss the value of your product or service, how you handle objections, how you ask for the sale, and also how to lead specific call types. So how to lead a discovery meeting or a demo call. So you can record a playlist for each of those things based on great examples that you have from existing reps. So you can have a qualification playlist, a discussing value playlist, etc. And then share that out as part of your onboarding. The image that you see on screen here is what you experience when you add a call recording to that playlist. So you get to select the playlist that you're adding it to, add that note, and then if you want to narrow it down to a specific clip, you could do that so they don't have to listen to the full call. And then once you have that done, just have the new reps review those playlists as part of their initial training, and then probably set up some time for them to ask questions or review those with you. Next thing is continuous improvement. So this isn't just great for your new reps, it's also great for the reps that you already have on your team. So our recommendation here would be to create a playlist of moments when salespeople performed exceptionally well on a call. So if you've already got a process where you're listening to a couple calls a week or listening to calls as part of your sales coaching, you could pull out great segments of that and then share those regularly. So maybe you share them monthly or quarterly, hey, here are some great examples, maybe 10 great examples from the last month of where reps really excelled on calls with our prospects, so you can help your team just continue to get better. All right, the next update we have, I know people are going to love if you create a lot of workflows. HubSpot finally has the ability to copy and paste workflow actions between workflows. So you used to be able to duplicate workflow actions within a workflow, but if you ever wanted to take a workflow action in one workflow and put it in another, you had to duplicate or clone that whole workflow and then reorganize it. So it wasn't very helpful if you only needed one action. So now what you can do is duplicate those between workflows. It is limited to one action at a time, and it does have to be between workflows of the same type. So if it has to go from a contact-based workflow to a contact-based workflow, etc. Can't copy an action from a contact-based workflow into a deal-based workflow, for example. And then it does need to be in the same portal. So if you're managing multiple HubSpot portals, unfortunately, today you can't do it across portals. But for most cases, if you just need to take one action and put it in another action of the same workflow type, you can now do that. And it is live and available to pretty much anybody who has access to workflows, which is going to be all hubs except CMS Hub at the professional level or higher. So the obvious use case here is to save time and reduce errors. So how we recommend that you do that is do it to duplicate your complex actions across workflows. So some examples of those complex actions would be if you've got really detailed if-then branching with multiple branches and you don't want to have to recreate that every time, or if you've got actions with a lot of text that you want to remain consistent. So maybe that is an internal email or a Slack notification for your team, or maybe you need to do a record or task creation with lots of pre-filled options. So you're creating a task or a new contact deal, etc., and you're pre-filling a lot of information on that new record or task based on the workflow. You wouldn't have to recreate that step. And then also webhooks and custom coded actions. So if you are using Ops Hub and you've got really complex actions in Ops Hub, this is going to be a really awesome tool to be able to just copy that custom code or webhook action and paste it into a new workflow. So awesome for saving a lot of time there. All right, this next update is for my Microsoft Teams users. I think this is going to be long awaited and very welcome. You can now directly inside of Microsoft Teams create HubSpot tasks and tickets. So this is already live. It's available to anybody that has the Microsoft Teams integration, and you can do this from either a new message or an existing message. This GIF that you're seeing play through on the screen here is showing both of those use cases. And then once that task or ticket is created, it also gives you the option to take some quick actions like associate that with a record or add notes or navigate back to it in the CRM. So some use cases for this is really just allowing you to turn your conversations in Microsoft Teams into action using HubSpot. So what you're seeing on the screen here is the confirmation message inside of Microsoft Teams. This is what you'll see once that task or ticket is created. So you can see the metadata about that task or ticket, and then those quick actions that you can take below. But some of the kind of most common ways that we expect this to be used, ways people are using it in Slack already today, is create a ticket upon a customer issue being identified. So somebody on your team alerts you to a customer issue. You say, awesome, I'm going to get this in as a ticket in HubSpot right away. Create a task that's in the follow-up message. So you maybe need to send a follow-up message to a customer or a person on your team. You create a task for you or somebody else to do that. That's actually the example you see on the screen as well. Create a task to accompany a request for a teammate to do something. So, don't just ask somebody to do it, ask somebody to do it, and go ahead and create a task for them in HubSpot so that you make sure they don't miss that thing. Or do the same thing for yourself. So somebody asks you to do it, or you just, somebody alerts somebody, you need to take a follow-up action, create a task for yourself to make sure that you don't let that slip through the cracks, and that you know when to revisit it, when the deadline is, and all of that. So you don't have to go back and scroll through all of your team's messages to find, oh, what was it, that thing that I was supposed to do? And when was I supposed to get it done by? Now you can just have it as a task in HubSpot where all of your other tasks may live. All right, this is the big one. We're going to spend a lot of time here. If you're creating any sort of content for HubSpot, I know most of you are, I think this is going to be big. We've all heard all kinds of things about AI, ChatGPT, HubSpot, if you have or haven't heard, is also playing a lot with AI. And this month, they expanded their content assistant tool a lot. So this is in a public beta, so you have to enroll, but it is available to anybody on any hub at any tier. So this is a few places where the content assistant either got new functionality or became available for within HubSpot in the last month. So your conversations inbox, page titles and meta descriptions, mobile emails. So if you are using the iOS app, you can actually use the content assistant to create emails directly in the HubSpot iOS app. Your blog, sales Chrome extension for Gmail. So directly inside of your Gmail in Chrome, you can use Content AI Assistant, social media, and there's also this new functionality they call slash and highlight commands. And this is available across a lot of tools as well. But you can kind of see this image here. You type a slash, and then it's going to pop up with your Content AI Assistant actions that you can take. So there are a lot of use cases for this, but before I get into the use cases, we do a lot of content marketing at Simple Strats, and so you better believe we've played with every AI tool out there. And there are some disclaimers that I have to give to make sure you don't get into a little bit of trouble here. So first thing is AI content at this stage, I would die on this hill for at least right now. This is first draft quality content, not final draft quality content. Always verify it for accuracy. AI has a tendency to be inaccurate at times. And probably more importantly is that when it's inaccurate, it is just as confident as when it is accurate. So it will say with 100% certainty that, some crazy stat, and it might even generate a source for you and everything, and that might be completely false. So anything around facts, statistics, things like that, always verify that it is accurate with reputable source. And make sure you add your flair for originality, right? With AI content, one of the risks of it is that everybody is creating content created by the same tools and it all starts to sound the same, right? And so just like when you're creating content before AI, we always recommend that you add some sort of thing that makes it unique, that shares your unique perspective. And that's really where the value of your content is, right? So sharing proprietary info. So if you've got unique data that you only have access to, experiences that are only yours or only your company's, or you've got unique points of view, always work to insert those, because those are the kinds of things that your competition will never be able to duplicate with using the same AI tools. And then just keep in mind that a lot of the things I'm going to talk about for use cases here is about improving speed. Just note that AI doesn't always improve speed without sacrificing quality. So a lot of times how I like to think of it is it's a great way to get to a better quality product in the same amount of time, because you can ideate and iterate faster using AI. All right. So enough of that. Let's get into the actual use cases. So speeding up page publishing, specifically with titles and meta descriptions. So you can get a page title started fast. So after you create your blog post or your web page, you go into where you create your page titles in HubSpot. You click on the little lightning button, just like what this is showing you here for meta descriptions. It works the same way for titles. It's actually going to create a title for you based on the content of the post. I say get them started because it's probably not the best title ever that you could think of, but it's probably a great starting place that you could tweak a little bit and you have a title much quicker than you might be able to think of one yourself. And then do the same thing with meta descriptions. And meta descriptions, you probably don't have to do nearly as much tweaking. It's going to be great because it's going to already be in the right length and it's already going to be based on the content that you have. So click on that lightning button, edit whatever you need to, and you're ready to publish. This is great for when your publisher isn't a writer. So maybe the person writing the content, maybe they forgot to have a meta description in there and the person publishing it wasn't the writer. This is a great tool to help you kind of spread the work across your team without having to worry too much about losing quality or a meta description that has nothing to do with what the article had to say. And it's also great if you're publishing a lot of pages at once. So if you are an avid blog publisher, maybe doing a blog migration, and for whatever reason, the old blog didn't have meta descriptions, it's a great tool for any use cases like that. You can also use it for better, faster replies to chats or emails. So this is an example of chat using the conversations inbox. So you can use it to rewrite to an alternate version. So if you've got a response, you're like, I don't really like, this is what I need to say, but I don't really like how I'm saying it. You can have it be rewritten. You can expand it. So maybe you write a 3-4 word response and you want it to be a 10-word response. Or you can shorten it. I know for me, my first drafts are almost always longer than they need to be. So you can condense that writing back, change your tone. So maybe you're a little bit grumpy that day and don't want that to come off to customers and want it to be a little bit more kind, a little bit more professional. You can do that. Or you can just have it create ideas with that drafted message and create a first draft that you can then edit. You can also use it for faster sales emails. So this is a place that I mentioned earlier. Make sure you're inserting your own flair. This is going to be a really important place to do that because I'm sure you're already seeing it. We are going to see a huge rise in unsolicited cold sales emails written by AI. And it's going to become very apparent, I think, to people when it's written by AI. So use this as a starting place, but tread lightly here. But I do think that it's a really powerful tool to get that starting place. So this image here is in the Gmail extension, but it works similarly if you're using it directly from HubSpot to write an email. So create a first draft of the sales emails with basic info here. So it's going to ask you some basic questions. You're going to put that, you're going to answer those questions. That's what it's going to use to create that first email. Iterate. So, try something, change it up a little bit. And then once you find something that works well with your prospects, save it as a template and then have your team continue to use that. And you can also use it to help with content marketing. This one's probably a little bit more obvious, but ways that you can use it. So social posts with a simple prompt, and also with a single prompt. You can create multiple posts with one prompt, which is really cool. And you can also use it for blog posts, landing pages, web pages, and marketing emails. So you can use it both to create and edit. So for creating, it's going to help you create outlines, do a paragraph, ideas, or conclusions. I really like the way that HubSpot is approaching this because I think a lot of people, when ChatGPT first came out, they were kind of having it used, like using it to write like entire blog posts. And that was almost always terrible, to be honest with you. So when we've used it, we use it to give me ideas for an introduction or a conclusion, or we've got these points for this paragraph, write a full paragraph using these points, maybe based on a subject matter expert interview or something like that. So I really like that HubSpot is kind of looking at it from this like modular approach and using it to help craft a blog post or something like that, rather than, make it sound like you can just create the whole thing with one simple prompt and have it be good, because it won't be. And then you can also use it to help your editing. So just like on the last use case that I mentioned, you can use it to rewrite something, shorten something, expand something, or change the tone with those highlight and slash commands. One of the ways to use the highlight commands is you just highlight something. And so it could be one sentence, one paragraph, and you can apply any of these functions to just what you highlighted. So you can get really, really specific with what the AI is editing. So this is great if you just have like man, this sentence just doesn't flow well. It's what I need to say, but I'm not saying it very well. It's a great way to have AI step in and give you some better ideas on how to handle that. All right, so going from content to numbers, we're making a big jump here. Advanced formula builder and calculated properties. So lots of big words, but basically HubSpot has had the ability to do calculated properties for a little while. It's available in all hubs, and it's available at Pro or higher. It is pretty restricted on Pro. You only get 5 calculated properties to use across your whole portal. So this is more of an enterprise feature, but you can use it in a few places for Pro, and we've used it in Pro quite a few times for clients, really. So what the update is the old formula builder, you've been able to do custom formulas, but it's been really restricted. And so with a new formula builder, you can do all kinds of things like comparison operators, logic operators, conditional statements, all kinds of other functions that are just available in HubSpot. So this example is from HubSpot. It's nonsense. I don't know why anybody would ever use this, but this is an example of somebody using, if we know the first name and the total revenue, we're going to add 4,567 to it. If not, then it's 23. Random use case, but it kind of shows you the more advanced functionality there. So in terms of real use cases, these use cases are going to typically vary a lot from one customer to the next. There's all kinds of different reasons you might need calculated formulas. And then there's not a whole lot of consistency between clients, but here's a few examples to kind of get those wheels turning. So conditional calculation. So this example here calculates the average amount per deal if revenue has been earned. So whenever you close a deal in HubSpot, the total revenue for a contact gets updated. So all this says is if we know the total revenue, divide that total revenue by the number of associated deals. So this gives us the average revenue per deal. So a simple example using those conditional calculations. Maybe you've got complex commission calculations. So maybe they earn a certain percentage of commission if the deal is a certain value, and maybe they earn a higher or lower percentage if the deal is higher value. Or maybe there's other conditions that are in properties that would affect how much they make for commission. So if you want to do those complex calculations, you could do that using this advanced formula builder. This is also a new way to use date stamp or to date stamp properties. So you can do, HubSpot has a function called last updated that's available in this. So this is, especially if you have enterprise and you're using a ton of workflows to manage date stamping today, this is a much simpler way to do it. You just create a calculated property for your date stamp, use last updated, apply it to that property that you want to have a date stamp for, and it's going to save you a ton of time, and you don't have nearly as many date stamp workflows to worry about managing. So if you're using date stamping today and have enterprise, I think this is probably the first use case that I would go and check out. And then a very specific use case that we deployed for a client, just to kind of show you the power of this updated functionality versus what we had before. So you can now, so HubSpot has the ability to say how much time has a deal spent in each deal stage, but HubSpot's default reporting only shows that once a deal is closed won or lost. And so a lot of people, we had a client that wanted to see it but while a deal was in progress. They had a lot of stages, their sales cycle was really long, and so they didn't have to wait until a deal was closed to see time and deal stage. So we were able to do that for them using a calculated property, but with the old format, we used to have to do 2 calculated properties. So there was one calculated property that we used to figure out the time in between when they arrived in a stage and when they left a stage. And that gave us the number of milliseconds, because that's what HubSpot and most software is used is milliseconds, gave us the number of milliseconds a deal was in a stage. Well, that's kind of crappy for reporting. So we used the second calculated property to convert milliseconds into days. Well, now with the custom formula and the advanced custom formulas, we could do that all in one calculated property, which is really important because this prospect or this client only has Pro, and so they only have 5 calculated properties. So we're able to, instead of having to use up 2 of those, just use 1 and get the same functionality. So now it was very, very specific, but it just gives you an example of kind of how more powerful these advanced formulas are. All right, a little bit less technical. Color object tag enhancements. So for a while now, you've been able to apply colored objects on deals and tickets. The way this works is in the settings, you create a colored object and say, these are the filters that I want to apply it for. And those would show up on your board view of your deals, your tickets, and help you kind of prioritize things. But they weren't stored in a property, and so they weren't very accessible throughout the CRM. You couldn't see them. If you opened up a deal record, you couldn't see them. You couldn't use them in lists or workflows, but now you can. So basically what HubSpot did is they took those and put them in a property. I think they do that from the start, but they learned their lesson and now it is available. So it's available in sales and service. These are the ones that have deals and tickets, and starter or hire. So this is going to be an example of if you open up a contact record and have deal tags as the property, have that added to your left-hand sidebar. This is what it would look like. So a couple use cases for this. Probably the most important one is reporting. So you could see them on your board view, but you couldn't report on them. And a lot of times, especially for deals, but also for tickets, we're showing quite a few important things with our object tags that would be very, very difficult to report on in a single report. You probably have to have a whole dashboard to report on all these things. So for example, tags that we have in our system, deals that are missing a next step, retainer deals, deals that are past their close date, deals that are closing in the next 2 weeks, deals that are large deals. These are all things we want to know, but to show a deal count for each of those things without being able to report on tags, we have a full dashboard full of reports. Now, by reporting on deal tags, we have one report that shows us all of the important information about deals. So the way that we do this is you create a single object report. So you don't need the custom report builder. You just create a single object report and select deals or tickets. This particular example is deals. So you select deals as your object that you're reporting on. You add deal tags property at the data step. If you're doing this tickets, it's ticket tags. And then you would change your visualization to a bar graph and add deal tags or ticket tags and count of deals to the displaying and measured by boxes in your visualization tab to get this report exactly. You could do revenue by tag or things like that. If you wanted to swap out count of deals with something else, you could do that to get different data. And then update your filters as desired. So this one, this particular example shows all deals created after June 1st, but you could do this quarter, this year, all time, whatever you want to do for your filters. Just make sure you update those date filters so that they match what you would like. You can also use this to simplify list and workflow triggers. So object tags are based on filters that you set. And those filters can be used already as you could create the same filters to trigger a workflow or do a list, but this is a way to save you some time. So if you already created that filter to power a tag, you can use just that tag rather than having to recreate it in a list or a workflow. So this is great if you want to send somebody a notification when a tag gets applied to a deal. Maybe you want to assign a task to somebody when a tag gets applied to a deal. Or maybe you want to show a list of companies or contacts based on the tags of their associated deals or tickets. So this example image, anytime we've got a deal tag where there's no activity on this deal, we want to send an internal email to, in this case, me, but probably the owner of that deal saying, hey, you've got this deal, but there's no activity on this deal. And that could be used for all kinds of different tags. All right, sequence reporting improvements. This is going to be our last big update. Then we'll get into those small but mighty, and then get into your questions. This is a small change that I think will have a big impact for anybody using sequences. So it is in public beta. You do have to enroll in it. It's available to anybody that has sequences. So to have sequences, you need to have Sales or Service Hub and be on Pro or Enterprise. So this is kind of what it looks like. The change here is actually quite a few changes. So it used to be that it would only report on the total performance of the sequence, but for steps, it would only report on emails. So for any task-based steps you had, like connect with somebody on LinkedIn or call somebody, all of those would be missing in that old reporting. And then it also had reporting for a meeting rate or the rate at which contacts book meetings, but it would only show that if they booked a meeting through a meeting link. So if you called somebody and had a great call, and on that call, they agreed to schedule a demo and you scheduled that demo with them without using the meeting link, that wouldn't be reported. So that's fixed now. You also have an executed steps and tasks completed column that you can see on the screen here to kind of reflect that it's not just emails that are being done in sequences today. So how to use them. The first, I mean, it's going to be great for reporting on sequences in the future, but the beta is available to you now. So if you're running sequences today, my recommendation is to use them now to reanalyze your current sequences or your most recent sequences. So to do that, you would enroll in the public beta. And then you would go through and just review your current recent sequences for new insight about what's working. So as an example here, this is a real life sequence from a client. I've got all of the client identifying information removed out of here, but the top is the report that you would have seen before enrolling them in the public beta. So you can see just emails, according to this, they were booking no meetings. And then the bottom image here is the report that they see now after being enrolled in the public beta. So what you can see is they're actually getting some meetings. What's happening is those meetings just weren't being booked through the meeting link. And some of them are happening after a LinkedIn connection. And so, maybe you find that most of your meetings are happening on your call steps. And so you might want to adapt your sequence to include more calls. Or maybe you find that sequences that include some LinkedIn actions have a higher meeting rate than the ones that don't. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can use this new reporting that's a lot more accurate to go back and optimize those sequences, when in the past you really had pretty limited data to be able to optimize those for. All right, small but mighty updates. We are, I think, right at a half hour, if I am correct here. Yep, so we're going to run through these in the next 10 minutes or so, and then we will open it up to questions. All right, so big one for people using playbooks. You can now choose your playbook engagement type when you're logging your playbook. So this is live to anybody with playbooks, so that's sales and service hubs on Pro or Enterprise. And so what used to happen, if you're not familiar, is whenever you created a playbook template, you had to say whether this was for a call, a note, or a meeting. Now you can say this template can be, or this playbook can be used for any of those things. You can say it can be used for a call and a meeting, or all of those options. And then when somebody actually goes and uses that playbook, they can say, okay, this playbook was used for a call. The other thing that is new with playbooks is you can now choose to update properties linked to a playbook without having to log an engagement. So that's an enterprise only thing, because only enterprise playbooks can be linked to properties. But the way that works is a certain question in the playbook gets linked. So they say, whatever the answer is to this question, update this property based on that. Now you can say update all the properties without actually logging a new engagement. So there's been a few instances where that's been important. You don't want to log a new call, but you do want to update the properties, and you want to use the format of the playbook to figure out, what questions to ask or things like that. You could do that now. CRM activity cards in the preview sidebar. So this is an opportunity for you to get more information at a glance. So whenever you're looking at a list of contacts or companies, you have the option to click on them and get a preview sidebar before you have to, without actually opening up the record and navigating to a new page. And there's always great information about that. In this case, we got Snoop Dogg. We can see his name and then some metadata about him, some properties about him. But what's new is you can now see any activity that's been pinned to that record. So maybe you pinned a note to the top of that. Maybe Snoop Dogg, he likes to sleep in. Do not call Snoop Dogg before noon. Maybe that's a pinned note. I made that up. I have no idea if he likes to sleep in or not. I assume he does. But if that note is pinned, you can now just see that at a glance. And then you can also see the 3 most recent activities that were logged to that contact. Works for any object, so it's not just contacts, companies, deals, tickets, etc. Subscriptions index page. So if you use subscriptions with HubSpot payments, that's the ability for them to, pay and then automatically pay every month or year, quarter, however you have that set up. In order to see that active subscription in the past, you used to have to find the contact or company associated with that subscription, go into that record, scroll down in the sidebar and find the subscription. And if you wanted to look at multiple subscriptions, you were doing a lot of clicks to see multiple subscriptions. Now there's a view just like this that you can see on your screen, just like your contacts view and your company's view and your payments view and your invoices view. HubSpot's got this view for pretty much everything. They didn't have it for subscriptions, and now they do. So great way if you're managing subscriptions to go in there and see a list of subscriptions, see them filtered by things like whether they're successful or active or expired, etc. So you can do a lot more action with those subscriptions a lot easier with a lot less clicks for you. Daily duplicate checks. This is going to make me sound like a bigger HubSpot nerd than I probably already do, but I was so happy to hear this because we do manage some duplicates as part of our HubSpot management for clients. And I used to have to tell clients, yep, we can check every 2 weeks, which kind of sucks. Now you can check every day. So this is, if you don't already know what HubSpot does, so HubSpot automatically deduplicates contacts by email address, companies by domain name. They do that automatically all the time. They've been doing that for a long time. But a couple of years ago, they came out with this feature where it also uses AI to say, okay, if they don't have the same email address for a contact, are there signals that we're getting that they are a duplicate contact? So there's all kinds of signals, and it's AI, so I'm not going to get into the algorithm, but it would give you a list then of all the contacts that it thinks might be duplicates. The problem was it would only update that list every 2 weeks, and now it updates it every day. The tool lives in the same spot, but if you aren't familiar with it, you just open up your list of contacts or companies, go to actions at the top right, and in that drop down, say manage duplicates, click on that, and you get your list of duplicates, and it'll look just like this. So the update again is that they now check every day, so you don't have to wait every 2 weeks to go in and check duplicates. All right, support for global privacy control. This is as technical as it sounds. I'll give the disclaimer, none of this is legal advice. Talk to whoever in your company is responsible for compliance with CCPA in California, GDPR in Europe. But what global privacy control is it is a browser setting or a browser extension setting where somebody can say, you know, I'm really tired of answering all of these cookie consent banners, or really tired of finding the do not sell my information button at the bottom of every web page I visit. Can't I just upload my settings once and have that apply to all of the websites? So that's what Global Privacy Control GPC is it's that browser or extension tool that lets them say, these are my settings for selling or sharing my information, and I want all the websites to listen to it. So the update here is that HubSpot now has a beta that will, HubSpot will allow it to receive that signal from the browser or the extension and adjust the settings appropriately so that that person, if they have those settings set, doesn't have to worry about the cookie consent banner. Again, no legal advice here, but there is some requirements for doing this with CCPA. So even for our US-based folks, if you're doing business in California, have website visitors from California, my guess is you do. You probably want to pay a little bit of attention to this, have a conversation with somebody. But the HubSpot update is that they added this toggle in the in your consent banner settings that you can turn on that allows it to respond to global privacy control signaling. You do have to be enrolled in the public beta first. All right, refreshed user creation flow. So this is a small update, but wanted to include it in here so that there was no surprises for anybody. If you've created a user in the last month, you may have already seen this. Last month, we talked about how HubSpot updated the process that you go through if you're updating permissions for a current user. They kind of streamlined that interface a little bit. Now, when you create a new user, it's going to match that interface. So new interface for creating a new user and updating their permissions. It is a change, so it's a little bit meh because they change things and we don't always love that, but at least it'll be consistent now. When you're creating a user and when you're updating a user, you'll go through those same settings. All right, last but not least, I think this is going to be exciting for people who feel inundated with spam. So HubSpot now has a spam submissions tool for forms. It is fairly limited, but it does sound like they will be adding more functionality to it in the near future. So with this release, it is already live. So you do already have available to this. So you already want to make sure you have a process for whoever's managing your HubSpot to be going in and checking this. But what it's doing today is anytime you get a form submission and somebody submits a URL in a name field, it will trigger it as spam. So again, pretty limited. There's all kinds of spam that we can get where a URL is not going to be in the name field. That's why HubSpot is saying that they're going to release some things in the future. But this is, I think, a really good step in the right direction. So the way that you access and the way that this works and the way that you see these is anytime HubSpot detects spam via that URL being in a name field in a form submission, it's going to kind of cordon it off. And you can, so it won't create a contact record, it won't create a timeline activity record or anything like that. What it's going to do is in your forms tool, you can go to forms. There's a new column next to the form that's going to say spam submissions. It's going to have a number underneath of it. You can click on that number and it's going to take you to the screen that you see here, where you can see all of the spam submissions. So right now for that spam type, it's going to say URL and name field. It's the only spam type it catches. But like I said, they're going to add more. And what happens is you have the opportunity to delete that record or move it to your CRM. If you do nothing, all of these will get deleted within 90 days. So I think, URL and name field is a pretty, I don't think there's going to be any real submissions you're getting that have that. So probably not a big deal if you don't catch it, don't move it to your CRM, but be thinking about what your process is going to be for checking these spam submissions so that if any legitimate submissions get caught as spam, that you do get them over to your CRM before they get deleted. So really excited to see what HubSpot does with this. And I know that this better spam controls I know have been on everybody's list or a lot of people's list for HubSpot for a long time. So really excited to see HubSpot roll this out and really excited to see what other kind of spam types they have rolling out in the future. All right, that is all the updates we have for you. So next steps, what to do now with these updates. So my recommendation, as always, identify 1 to 2 updates that your team could benefit from right away. So are you using sequences and you want to go back and check the reporting, you're creating a lot of content, and maybe that content AI tool is going to be really helpful for your team. If you get those colored object tabs and want to do reporting based on that, find a couple updates that are going to deliver value right away. Then give us a call if you want us to help. If you want us to help you implement that, you don't actually have to call us. That's just the turn of phrase. Go to simplestrat.com/consult. You can book a free consultation with me there. Or if you want to do it yourself, research the update details on the HubSpot knowledge base or the product updates section, enroll in any necessary betas, and implement. And as always, make sure you're measuring the impact. Whatever you do there, make sure you join us on July 19th. My partner, Allie, who's also going to be moderating questions for me here in a second, is going to be coming at us with our Flywheel Fuel Series webinar. This is a webinar that we do, a different webinar we do every month that helps you figure out those marketing strategies, best practices, trends around the marketing that you're doing with your HubSpot. So this month, she's gonna be talking about how to 10x your lead flow using thought leadership. So all things thought leadership content, we know that that's the content that works best, especially in this world of AI. And she is going to be sharing a ton of knowledge around that on July 19th. You can register for that at simplestrat.com/webinars.